Hey guys, so I just wanted to show you this real quick because something really peculiar happened in Livermore. People's appliances were zapped out because of a power surge. But of course they're going to blame it on a power surge, but there's many things here in Livermore that are suspicious because there's particle accelerators at the Lawrence Livermore lab and there's one even running along like 2 miles in that area. There's no way that this was from a power surge. I'm almost done with my video about particle accelerators, so you guys will see what I'm talking about with these particle accelerators, but let me just show you what happened.
Whole new meaning tonight to power outage. The lights are on, but for hundreds at home in the East Bay, some pricey appliances are not. Neighbors say an overnight power surge killed many of their electronics.
We're talking about more than 500 homes in Livermore, but how did it happen and who's going to replace what was damaged?
Surveillance video appears to show the moment of a power surge in Livermore off Home Street early Tuesday. When the power came back on, residents noticed something was off.
This TV's dead. Our thermostat was dead. So no heat or AC.
Tyler and Megan Trant took us through their home and say only half of everything plugged in made it through the surge.
We lost our toaster oven. We lost our coffee maker. That's a new one I just bought this morning.
And what happened to them?
They just died. They took that surge and it just poof.
It's adding up to thousands of dollars in repairs. Even the hot tub is done.
It's brutal. It's brutal because this was a $10,000 hot tub.
We've already paid money to the HVAC guy who's come out, our electrician, just to do the assessment. We got a couple of quotes, which are not looking very friendly.
The surge happened just after midnight and made a loud noise inside of the homes, neighbors say. They immediately came outside and checked on each other.
Each neighbor noticed something different. For Brian Rittman, smoke was actually billowing out of his smart meter that has since been replaced.
We've never had a breaker trip from a surge before, if there's ever even been a surge before, but 29 and a half years.
Others say they lost whole appliances. PG&E says the surge happened a block away due to a palm frond falling from one of these trees, saying it, quote, made contact with both a transmission line and distribution line, causing a power surge. PG&E crews were out in full force yesterday, working to make repairs and support our customers, and have already begun discussions with affected customers. Adding, although the palm tree was not in PG&E's right-of-way and we are not responsible for its maintenance, we will review and consider each claim. Some neighbors don't believe the reasoning and worry if they'll be paid back.
If I was these citizens, I would be worried about getting paid as well, especially since PG&E is saying it isn't their fault and it's the palm tree's fault, and they're not responsible for that palm tree. I mentioned about the particle accelerators at Lawrence Livermore Lab. People should also be worried about the huge laser they have there too. I mean, they have scientists over there running all kinds of mad science experiments, and the surrounding communities have no idea that they're in danger from these. I mean, that's a nuclear testing site still. So let's just take a quick look at Lawrence Livermore Lab, and then you could decide where the power surge came from.
Can we build the technology to harness this awesome energy on Earth? As we approach our planet, that is exactly what's happening today. Far beneath these clouds lies the National Ignition Facility, located at Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory in Livermore, California. This facility has been built to bring star power to Earth. It is the world's largest and highest energy laser system. Containing 192 laser beams, NIF will explore controlled nuclear fusion to ensure global security, enable sustainable clean energy, and advance our understanding of the universe. 85 feet tall, the laser and target area building is the size of 3 football fields. Inside are 2 parallel laser bays, each containing 96 beam lines. In this animation, which is millions of times slower than real time, we will follow the process for creating a miniature star in the target chamber by riding along with some of the laser beams. The process starts by first energizing the laser amplifiers in the 2 laser bays by dumping electrical energy stored in capacitors into flash lamps. They convert the energy to light that is absorbed by the laser glass in the amplifiers. Later, when the laser pulses pass through the glass, they will extract this energy, thereby increasing the laser beam energy. Our trip with the laser beams begins in the master oscillator room, where a very low-energy laser pulse is created. This pulse is only 20 billionths of a second long in duration, which is a beam of light about 20 feet long. It's amplified and then split into 48 laser pulses, which are carried over to the two laser bays using fiber optic cables. Here, the 48 pulses are amplified in a preamplifier by a factor of about 10 billion. Then they're split into 192 pulses and sent into the main laser system. As we track 8 of these beams through the facility, you can see the path of the beams highlighted in red. The first amplification occurs in the power amplifier. It has 5 glass slabs that were energized by the powerful flash lamps. Then they travel to the main laser cavity that directs the laser light back and forth 4 times through 11 sets of laser amplifier glass in the main amplifier system. This gives the laser beams another boost of energy. During this time, optical components ensure that the beams maintain their required pulse shape, quality, and spatial uniformity. On the final pass through the optical system, the laser light is allowed to exit and travel back through the beam lines and up to the power amplifier once more to pick up even more energy before heading down the long stretch to the switch yard. In total, the energy of the laser beams is increased a quadrillion times as they travel more than 1,500 meters from the master oscillator room to the target chamber. In the switch yard, the parallel bundles of beams are rearranged into a conical configuration. That's so they can be focused into the center of the target chamber and onto the target assembly. The assembly holds the spherical fuel pellet containing hydrogen. Here you see the 8 beams split into 2 groups of 4 beams each, one group traveling up and the other traveling down, heading for equidistant entry ports on the target chamber. Finally, the beams pass through the final optics assemblies, which convert the original infrared laser light to ultraviolet. The beams then converge on the 10mm target assembly called a holeron, generating a bath of X-rays. This causes the tiny target sphere to implode and ignite in a controlled, self-sustaining fusion reaction.
So if you're like me, you're asking yourself, what the heck do they have this laser down there for exactly? Because it's not, stopping global warming or any of the stuff they listed that it would do. You just gotta wonder why they're running these experiments. And you see how much power they generate, and then they just aim those lasers to targets. Let's see what else they got down there.
We're building an accelerator, a world-class linear induction accelerator that gets to go underground, 1,000 feet underground in the Nevada test site. And it's about 20 pounds of sausage in an 8-pound sack. It is an incredibly difficult project.
We have Sandia that's really working on the injector. We have Los Alamos developing the accelerator cell, and Livermore's focusing on the pulse power. MSTS or NNSS is very focused on how we build this machine, how we commission it, building the integrated test stand.
There are going to be 984 LRUs or pulsars that are going to be included in this system. So the drift or the tunnel at U1A is over 100 meters long. So let's just use nominal numbers and say 1,000 pulsars. Inside each pulsar, there are 45 printed circuit boards. So that's 45,000 printed circuit boards. Each printed circuit board has 80 channels. Those channels are comprised of electrical components, capacitors, diodes, FETs. If you do the math, that comes out to over 3.5 million electrical components that are comprised just in our pulse power system alone.
So there are plans to do the first underground subcritical experiments that are, well planned far in advance, that are already scheduled. And the accelerator, the radiography system needs to be ready to do those tests.
What trips me out the most is that these people are doing all these experiments, literally, and they're using all of this power. Granted, they're using nuclear power on the low, but they're still using all of this power. And you would think that it would be taking something off of the power grid. And, are these the real reasons why our power gets shut off? Because, look at how much power they're using. Like, this is totally unacceptable.
Footprint is a huge thing. There's an incentive to cut the amount of power that we use. The utilities in the tunnel are fixed. So if anything we can do to, cut the amount of power that we're using, those are all, huge gains for us.
The United States has the biggest weapons arsenal in the world and is the only country to have ever used nuclear bombs during war. All of the nuclear weapons stockpile management and nuclear weapon technology come from 2 locations in the United States: Los Alamos Laboratory in New Mexico, which is surrounded by a giant plot of desert, and Lawrence Livermore Laboratory, a square-mile facility located right next to a city of 90,000 people. If a large-scale disaster or nuclear accident happened here, it would affect the entire Bay Area, comprised of San Francisco, Oakland, with 7 million people living in it. The United States used to blow up full-scale nuclear weapons in open air until the 1963 Limited Test Ban Treaty, which permitted the continuation of nuclear testing underground. In 1992, Congress passed the Nuclear Testing Moratorium Act, which banned all nuclear testing. However, the treaty is not yet ratified, and the U.S. still has over 5,000 nuclear weapons, 2,000 of which are on readiness alert at all times. To compensate for the loss of full-scale underground nuclear testing, the Department of Energy created the Stockpile Stewardship Program, which built new facilities that test different components of a nuclear weapons explosion, using supercomputers to put them all together. Most of the PR surrounding the Lawrence Livermore Lab gives the impression that it's a technology innovator working to harness the energy of the sun to create clean energy for the world. As it turns out of the Lawrence Livermore Lab's $1.5 billion annual budget, less than 1% is alternative energy. The rest is defense and nuclear weapons development. Another more elusive site buried in the hills behind the Lawrence Livermore Lab is called Site 300, a live-fire explosives test range where they blow up highly radioactive compounds, used to simulate many of the nuclear systems designed at the lab. Site 300 is mountainous, with many watersheds and canyons, making contamination easy to spread and cleanup extremely difficult. At Site 300, we found that they are testing depleted uranium and tritium, the radioactive hydrogen of the hydrogen bomb, in open-air tests. Site 300 happens to be located in a very high-velocity wind area.
Everything at this lab is so top secret. Like, my mom worked there and she can't even tell me what she did there. They must make them sign some kind of non-disclosure agreement.
Do you know about the Lawrence Livermore Lab?
Yes.
I mean, it's common knowledge to grow up in Livermore.
Oh, here we go.
What?
I'm aware of it, yeah. What is it that you think they do there?
At the lab? Oh, it's government testing on all kinds of different things.
I'm not really educated to what they do. You going to tell me?
I know they do a lot of research, and they have like the top scientists from all over the world that work there.
They used to do like nuclear devices, but to my knowledge, they don't really do that anymore.
Well, what I think they do there is research and development.
What do you think it is they do there?
I worked there for nearly 30 years.
So what did you do there?
I don't know. My dad works in a machine shop there. I don't know what he does, though.
In many ways, Livermore is a community that's in denial. It's also a community that I would call disempowered, because you have a super secret nuclear weapons laboratory and a community around it that's supposed to not ask questions.
I read somewhere that they were testing depleted uranium, and I was like, that can't be true.
No, nothing nuclear.
They've released over 1 million curies of radiation from the lab since 1953 when they opened. That's about the same amount of radiation that was released in the bombing of Hiroshima.
The state health department did a study of childhood cancers, and this was a record study covering 30 years. And they found that children born in Livermore had 6 times the expected rate of malignant melanoma. The study also found that for 1 decade, there was a 3-fold increase in brain cancer in Livermore children.
During the 70s and the 80s, the Lawrence Livermore Lab was flushing radioactive materials, including plutonium, down the drain, and it was recycled by the City of Livermore's sanitation department as compost. The city then gave away the toxic compost as landscaping. Local residents around the lab have even coined a neighborhood park, Plutonium Park, which is located adjacent to a school. One of the most impressive PR campaigns coming from the lab is the National Ignition Facility, or the NIF.
It's a mega laser that they love to talk about how it's going to save the world through creating nuclear fusion energy. Most of what the National Ignition Facility is for is stockpile management. And it's really a way for them to test nuclear weapon components because it creates an environment in that chamber that is similar to the environment created by a nuclear weapons explosion.
Just like many war technologies that the U.S. government rebrands as peace through force, the Stockpile Stewardship Program is nothing more than a cloak on the continued and unabated nuclear arms race.
So not only do they have accelerators and a big laser using all kinds of power, but they're also testing nuclear weapons and creating them. And it just so happens that, Ukraine needs some weapons, so I'm sure they're testing some to make sure that they work.
Despite the moratorium, we continue to find a way to test nuclear weapons. But by testing each component of a nuclear bomb separately with Site 300, the NIF, and supercomputers, they're able to pacify the public. However, in the back of our minds, we all know that at any moment, by mistake, by miscalculation, or by madness, life as we know it could end on this planet.
So again, there's no need to wonder where that power surge came from in Livermore and frizzed out 500 homes, but you have to wonder, are they practicing EMPs or what exactly are they doing with all of this energy that they seem to have and don't know what to do with?